I'm David Harris, CEO of American Jewish Committee. On January 27th each year, we mark International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It marks the day in 1945 when the Soviet Army liberated what was left of the slave labor and death camps in Auschwitz and Birkenau, built and run by Nazi Germany. More than 1.3 million people were deported to Auschwitz-Birkenau, of whom an estimated 1.1 million were annihilated. Of those 1.1 million, 1 million Jews and 100,000 Soviet POWs, Polish Catholics, and Roma. And when one thinks about the larger magnitude of the Holocaust, 6 million Jews, including 1.5 million children as young as 1 day old, 2 days old, 3 days old, Jews as old as in their 90s, murdered simply because they were Jews. 2/3 of European Jewry was destroyed by Nazi Germany and its collaborators. So the importance of remembering what happened should be obvious to so many. It's certainly obvious to me as a Jew and someone whose own family, including my mother and my father, survived the Holocaust miraculously and built new lives here in the United States. It's also important to remember the slippery slope that led from an industrialized, well-educated Germany in 1919, 1920 that built the Weimar Republic, a democratic republic, and that descended into the tyranny of the Hitler era by 1933. And of course, then Hitler launched the beginning of the final solution. We must remember that Hitler's final solution against the Jews did not begin with Auschwitz. It began with words. It began with dehumanization, with delegitimization, with disenfranchisement. And every few months, years, Hitler would stop, he would pause, he would look around the world, and seeing little to no reaction, he would continue until finally we witnessed the Endlösung in German, the final solution, leading to 6 million murdered Jews. So we have to remember, for the sake of memory, for the sake of those 6 million, they should never ever be forgotten. We have to remember because we have to remind ourselves of the fragility of democracy. We have to remember because we have to remind ourselves of the potential brutality, bestiality of human beings who, after all, were the perpetrators of the Holocaust. Those who sent Jews and others to the gas chambers, to the crematoria, to the Holocaust by bullets across Central and Eastern Europe. And if we're really serious about remembering, it's not just about the past. It's also about the present. And in the present, anti-Semitism is again on the rise. If we're serious about honoring the memory of the Holocaust and learning the lessons, we must be serious about combating anti-Semitism wherever it appears and in whatever form or guise it appears, whether in the United States or around the world. And if we're serious about honoring the memory of the Holocaust and the 6 million, we must also understand the centrality of Israel today, the only Jewish majority nation on the planet. And when the United Nations last week adopted a resolution against Holocaust denial, one nation opposed it, Iran, the very same nation that calls for the annihilation of Israel, the only Jewish majority state. So the best way for us to channel the power of memory, the power of remembrance, is to deal with living Jews wherever they may face anti-Semitism, threats to their very existence. And we also need to stand up against the attempt to trivialize the Holocaust, to appropriate Holocaust imagery to deal now with issues like COVID vaccines and vaccination mandates. Whatever one thinks about the COVID vaccine, the fact of the matter is, to use Holocaust-era language is a scandal, and it needs to be called out. We cannot allow the diminution of the power and the meaning of the Holocaust for someone's daily political causes. So on this day, and I would argue every day, there are two Jewish commandments. Zachor in Hebrew, which means remember. Lo tishkach, do not forget. And most of all, don't just remember, don't just mourn, don't just shed a tear, but stand up today and every day to fight modern-day evil, modern-day anti-Semitism, modern-day tyranny, modern-day threats to the only Jewish majority nation on earth. That's certainly what AJC has, is, and will be doing. We hope you'll join us.